Welcome to the Bro Code Podcast. Join Kennedy Lucas, Terry Lester, and Jackson Smith as they break down the biggest plays, share locker room banter, and keep it 100 on sports hot takes. Gear up, because this is where the real talk begins. Gear up! Cause this is where the real talk begins. Gear up. Cause this is where the real talk begins. Gear up.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another exciting podcast here today, presented by our Heart Media, K.L.P. Entertainment, and K.L.P. Studios. Of course, this is the Bro Code Podcast. We hope that you guys are ready for another exciting podcast because last episode we did, you guys really enjoyed the Bro Code Podcast episode that we had going out for sure. Of course, we debuted our new set right here, and you see it right behind me is the official animation brought to you by the K.L.P. Entertainment's graphics team, who got this thing put together. And let me tell you, the set looks pretty good today. I'm so grateful. I'm thankful for everybody that is a part of the team of K.L.P. Entertainment, helping our show grow, helping it to be to where the show can go today, helping the show climb and grow today. I'm very excited. Of course, we've got Terry and Jackson here in the studio within their talks and debuts. And of course, today's Bro Code Podcast is very special because this starts a new, I don't want to say season T, but a new generation of other podcasters and talent that is part of the K.L.P. Entertainment team to give us their latest in sports news. Now, you might have seen it between the Johnny and David show. We had a new correspondent on that show. And of course, TLT News will be coming back with new podcasters and new commentators, new anchors, new correspondents for K.L.P. Entertainment too. So again, that is just something that we're very excited to announce, and it's just growing, guys. The shows are only getting better, and it's only going up for here when it comes down to the shows of K.L.P. Entertainment. Again, of course, today we've got a fantastic, great show for y'all today, and I cannot wait to get started. T, take it away, man.
The 2025 college football season is rapidly approaching, and the results of the upcoming campaign will do a lot to determine the position of hundreds of prospects in the 2026 NFL Draft. But there are several players that evaluators are really looking forward to seeing in 2025. After talking to scouts and personnel people throughout the NFL, I chose 10 players who I feel have the most at stake this season. Some are looking to redeem themselves from a disappointing 2024 season. Others have injury issues which they need to address, while still others need to be more consistent to really move up draft boards. Millions of dollars in professional earnings could be on the line for the players below. We're going to start with one of the 3 quarterbacks on this list, with this signal caller also being a prime subject of this exercise a year ago. There were moments in 2024 when Aller looked like a potential top 5 pick. There were other times when it seemed like Penn State was effectively taking the ball out of his hands. With tight end Tyler Warren gone to the NFL and backup quarterback Bo Pribula transferring to Missouri, all eyes will be on Aller in 2025. Aller is a 6'5", 235-pound quarterback with good arm strength, plus level mobility, and 2 seasons of solid starting experience. Those traits describe a player NFL scouts normally fall in love with, but that hasn't been the case yet with Aller. Instead, scouts have questioned his decision-making and instincts. Love the tools, but I've rarely been blown away by what he does with them, an NFC East area scout said. One college scouting director said, "There's no killer instinct with him. He'll take what the defense gives him." I'd actually love to see him be more aggressive and throw a few more picks. Aller has thrown just 10 interceptions to 49 touchdown passes in his 2 seasons as starter. He completed 66.5% of his passes last season, a jump from 59.9% the year before. If year 2 in offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki's scheme produces the same development as year one, Aller has the talent to get himself into the top of round one. Texas Tech has a similar defensive line group as talented as any in the country, with Stanford transfer Bailey as the headliner. The 6'4", 250-pound senior was mostly used as just a pass rusher at Stanford, which led to limited snaps. But good things happened when he was on the field. In 2024, he posted 7 sacks, 9.5 tackles for loss, and 5 forced fumbles in only 339 snaps. Bailey is a blur off the ball, an NFC South area scout said. I mean, he can flat out move. It's better than James Pierce Jr. last year, and he was selected in the late first. Bailey is indeed quick, with a 2.64 second time to the first pressure. That isn't quite Abdul Carter territory, 2.48, but it was good enough for no. 23 in the country last season. Bailey has to prove he can become a 3-down player and not live purely as a situational rusher. But he's talented enough that one Big 12 coach told me he's the best pass rusher his team will see all season long. 1 year ago, Beck was being hailed as a potential QB1 for the 2025 draft after a stellar first season as a starter at Georgia. Instead, Beck saw his production suffer in 2024 as his interceptions doubled from 6 to 12 while his completion percentage dropped from 72.4% to 64.7%. The Bulldogs struggled to replace receiver Ladd McConkey and tight end Brock Bowers, which highlighted Beck's accuracy and ball placement issues. A torn UCL suffered in the SEC title game sidelined Beck, who initially declared for the NFL draft before deciding to hit the transfer portal. Like Cameron Ward, Beck is hopeful a move to Miami will boost his draft stock. He's better than people give him credit for, a college scouting director said. He looks like a top 10 pick physically. He just struggled too many times down the stretch at Georgia. Following elbow surgery in December, Beck was cleared for spring practice and is expected to be at 100% for the season opener August. 31 against Notre Dame. The Irish defense will be a big early test for Beck and a chance to remind scouts of his talent and ability as a pure pocket passer, a true blue-chip cornerback prospect. McCoy wouldn't be on this list were it not for a torn ACL in January. When asked at SEC Media Days about McCoy, Tennessee coach Josh Heupel did not have an update on his availability. McCoy is exactly what you want in a first-round corner with his quickness, timing, and ball skills. The 6', 193-pound junior has picked off 6 passes in his first 2 seasons combined. He allowed a QBR of 15.7 last season, which would have been the 5th best of any cornerback in the 2025 draft. I think we would have seen him go first among cornerbacks last year, said an AFC North scout, who did not include two-way player Travis Hunter in his corner rankings. If McCoy can get back onto the field in 2025 and show that same level play, his odds to be CB1 in the 2026 class are strong. Heading into LSU's battle against No. 14 Texas and them on October 26, Nussmeier was receiving legitimate first-round buzz among NFL scouts and analysts. The 6', 1 quarterback and son of New Orleans Saints offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier was wowing scouts with his flexible arm angles, fast decision-making, and upside ahead of his 8th career start. Then it fell apart. Nussmeier threw 3 interceptions and completed only 50% of his throws against the Aggies. The following week against Alabama was much of the same, with 2 interceptions. Nussmeier finished the season with 12 picks to 29 passing touchdowns, with another 3 touchdowns rushing. He returned to school instead of entering the 2025 draft. The hype is still there, though, and for good reason. Nussmeier might have thrown 5 picks in those 2 SEC contests we mentioned, but he also threw for 405 yards and 3 touchdown passes against NM. In a draft class with no clear-cut QB1, Nussmeier is often mentioned by scouts as one of the top players, with one AFC scouting director even declaring him as QB1 before the season starts. Give me his fire and his instincts, plus his football knowledge, even if he's not that big, the director added. What's on the line is a potential no. 1 overall draft slot if Nussmeier can cut down on his turnovers and turnover-worthy plays, while still making the aggressive throws of a potential starting caliber quarterback. The Ohio State offensive line was a powerhouse in 2024, leading the Buckeyes to a national championship on the back of an elite run game. But starters Donovan Jackson, Josh Simmons, Seth McLaughlin, and Josh Fryer are all gone. To help build a new front wall, the Buckeyes tapped into the transfer portal and picked Onyenwa, who previously played at Rice. A 4-year player with the Owls, Onyenwa has starting experience at both tackle spots, with 9 starts coming on the left side last season. His stat line was absurd, with no sacks allowed and just 8 total pressures and 2 penalties attributed to him all season. The 6'6" Onyenwa is listed at 357 pounds and plays with the power expected of a man that size. I can't wait to see him against Texas in Week 1. His agility and power on tape are insane. We'll know by about 1 p.m. if he's a legit prospect or not, an AFC East area scout said. Onyenwa will get a trial by fire-facing star Longhorns pass rushers Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill Jr., and Trey Moore. In a 2026 class that looks loaded at offensive tackle, Onyenwa has plenty of competition atop that group. If he can ace the Ohio State schedule and lock down future first-round pass rushers, his stock will soar. 1 year ago, I was debuting as a one running back on my preseason watch list, even over Ashton Janney, who would become the 6th pick in the 2025 draft. Odd season did not go nearly as well as Janney's, thanks to an ankle injury that limited him to 10 games. He rushed for only 385 yards and 4 touchdowns, a big step down from his 1,305 yards and 12 touchdowns in 2023. The 5'11", 208-pounder originally announced he would return to Cal for his senior season before hitting the transfer portal and signing with Oklahoma. The Sooners plan to feature a powerful rushing attack with Ott as the primary back, but he has also shown off his receiving skills at Cal with seasons of 46, 26, and 24 catches, respectively. Can I get back to his old form and new location? I'm kind of out on him because he looks to have lost all his burst, even before he got hurt, one AFC West area scout said. If he comes back and has that power again, I'll be backing on him, but the summer grade for me was mid-rounds. I will have to prove himself again after a disappointing season, even if the drop-off in numbers came as he played through injury instead of shutting down for the year. Week 2 against Michigan's defense will be a great barometer as to how resurgent he'll be. Like Beck, Peyton debuted high on my preseason watch list at this time last year. His lack of a 2024 breakout was a result of a Florida State team that struggled in every phase of the game. He ended the season with only 4 sacks, down from 7 the year before, and promptly transferred to LSU, where he's a better fit in defensive coordinator Blake Baker's aggressive scheme. Peyton has an impressive toolkit at 6'6" and 255 pounds. He demonstrates first-step quickness and length with a body type that could add more strength to better round out his pass rush game plan. And while he has shown flashes of top technique, he lacks consistency in that area. Moving to the SEC means weekly battles against premier offensive tackles. Up first is Clemson in Week 1, where he'll likely face top 100 prospect Blake Miller, followed by Florida's Austin Barber in Week 3 and Alabama's Caden Proctor on November 8th. If Peyton is to become the first-round talent scouts saw in 2023, he'll have plenty of game opportunities this fall to establish it. There hasn't been an offensive tackle taken with the 1 pick since 2013, Eric Fisher, but many scouts feel the 2026 tackle class could break that mold. Proctor headlines a group, a 6'7", 366-pound left tackle who signed with Alabama as a 5-star recruit. Proctor has dominated defensive linemen with his raw power and grip strength. In 11 starts last season, Proctor allowed 3 sacks and just 14 pressures. 2 of his 3 allowed sacks came in the final 2 games of the season, so scouts are already whispering about conditioning and availability. He's massive and his strength is 1-1. But is he going to make it through the year? He was gassed against Auburn in Week 14, and he looked awful against Michigan, an NFL general manager said. In Alabama's bowl game against Michigan, Proctor allowed 1 sack and 2 pressures, his worst performance of the season considering he played only 32 snaps. Proctor was playing through a shoulder injury, which kept the 2-year starting left tackle out first 2 games of the 2024 season and ultimately required off-season surgery. Proctor's talent is rare, and scouts are nitpicking when pointing out his struggles and not compensating for playing through injury. But attention will be on him this year as an OT1 candidate and a potential one pick. As scouts prepare for the upcoming season, no player has emerged as a consensus top receiver in the 2026 class. And while we wait for sophomores Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State, and Ryan Williams, Alabama, to be eligible in 2027, Tyson has a legitimate claim to the WR1 spot in April if he can clean up one obvious weakness: drops. Tyson was credited with 8 drops last season on 114 targets, a drop rate of 7%. But he has talent. He's 6'1", 195 pounds, and has sprinter speed to get open down the field. He caught 75 passes for 1,101 yards with 10 touchdowns and closed out the regular season with back-to-back-to-back performances of more than 125 yards. Tyson, who broke his collarbone against Arizona and missed both the Big 12 championship game and college football playoffs, will be back with star quarterback Sam Levitt this season. And if he can better secure the football, he has WR1 potential.
Yes, very exciting. Thanks, T, for sure. Now, I'm very excited to talk about this topic of conversation. I know, I get it, folks. I talk about WWE a whole heck of a lot. If you guys know, if you watch yesterday's episode of the K.L.P. Aftermath podcast, we talked about our Raw results from this past Monday. That's what we do on every podcast show of K.L.P. Aftermath. But this has came across our desk this morning, Jackson and T, and I'm very excited about this. I want to say it is about time that WWE has done this, right? Because they have shows on this network. Of course, Disney's ESPN will soon become exclusive streaming platform to watch all of World Wrestling Entertainment's biggest events. Of course, finally, WWE will be coming to ESPN at the start of 2026. Of course, the reported $1 billion deal announced on today, Wednesday, will give Walt Disney Company's subsidiary ESPN exclusive rights for U.S. streaming rights on all WWE's major two-night events, including WrestleMania and SummerSlam, starting in the year of 2026. I have a favoritism towards ESPN. As you guys know, I've talked about it multiple times. I used to work for ESPN, not at the corporate level of ESPN, but back in my Georgia State days, I was able to be a part of that team and film their sports teams for ESPN. And I'm very excited to kind of rep the ESPN brand simply because, you know, streaming on ESPN, working with ESPN, that's something on my resume, and that's something, it's very tedious. Let me tell y'all something. Doing work for ESPN on the production side of it, it's very, very, very tedious. There's a lot of rules and regulations that you have to do with ESPN. So I know about the hustle and bustle of it. And I do want to say it is about time that they're able to do this simply because, you know, they've been working on, WWE has been working on a lot of content for ESPN, right? We've got Stephanie's Places as an ESPN docu-series type of thing. You've got certain special clips for WWE for ESPN. And now we get to see full-fledged major live events, PLEs, premium live events on this thing, which was very good because here's what I think is happening, right? WWE with Raw and some of their docuseries on Netflix. Again, so much money is made there, right? I cannot wait, sort of, for WWE to have SmackDown and NXT on streaming platforms because let me tell you, I'm that type of consumer where I don't have cable TV anymore, right? I've never had cable TV when living by myself and having my own house. I've never had cable TV put in my house simply because it's expensive. You don't get a whole heck of a lot when it comes down to cable TV. And I find myself streaming content more nowadays than ever. Right, so I can't wait to see what the deal is when it comes down to SmackDown and CW. Every Monday I'm able to catch Raw because it's on Netflix, right? I wonder, will we have a chance to have SmackDown? And I think I talked about this too, actually, a couple of podcast shows back, that it would be great if SmackDown was on ESPN. right? Because I do have an ESPN account. I do tune into ESPN. I think this is very, very good when it comes down to it. Again, WWE's major live events. This includes Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Money in the Bank will also be featured on the network starting next year, 2026. The wrestling events are set to be a part of ESPN's new streaming service, which is set to launch later this month. We all know about that. ESPN is launching a new streaming thing where they're trying to just not call it ESPN Plus. They're just trying to call it ESPN, which I understand. It's the name branding there. It's one of those things where, when you change a name to something and you think it's going to work and it didn't work. It's the same thing with HBO Max, right? When HBO Max was just Max at one point, they changed it back to HBO Max because, you want to diversify your name. You don't want to have the same typical name that every other name's having. Now, let me tell you something. This is the numbers. This is the numbers that's coming out for this deal. Again, this is a 5-year deal that is valued at $1.6 billion, according to Wall Street Journal. Is a major bump up for WWE's current 5-year contract with the Peacock, right? It's a major bump up from WWE's current contract. And then Peacock and WWE, they only have a 5-year deal, right? So I think this could be a change. Honestly, I think WWE on ESPN is better, figuratively, because it's a $1.6 billion 5-year deal, right? I think this is better because ESPN, first of all, Disney owns everything, right? You can't, whether you hate it or like it, Disney owns pretty much everything. This is a smart move for WWE because you want to relate to the sports side of things, right? You want to relate to the sport, right? You got every team, every league, every professional league that's out there, WNBA, NBA, NFL, fantasy, hockey league, soccer league. You got all the major sports primarily on ESPN. So it only makes sense to have WWE at part of that deal. There's nothing against Peacock because I genuinely enjoy Peacock. I have a Peacock account as well. I genuinely enjoy that Peacock setting. But I think WWE with ESPN is a better deal because now it's sports, right? Have all of your sports shows, whether it's the sports shows, the PLEs, the talk shows, the behind the scenes shows, the podcast shows, keep them all in one central location. That's what I think WWE has a better deal with ESPN because WWE is sports. Duh. You want to keep it all on one hub, right? I would rather have it to where I have an ESPN account to where ESPN, I'm able to see all my sports in one app. Right? I wouldn't want to go to ESPN to watch a football game, and then I might go to ESPN or Prime for a WNBA game or NBA game, and then I got to go to Peacock if I want to watch WWE or Netflix, right? Keep it all centered in one hub location. That's why I think this is a smart move. I don't think after this deal was announced today, WWE looks like they won't renew their contract with Peacock. That 5-year deal with WWE and Peacock is set to end this year, which is valued at $900 million. Again, you're going from $900 million to $1.6 billion. It's a no-brainer. It's business. Like to say, Peacock, I genuinely enjoy Peacock as well, but I'm humbled, I'm blessed, I'm so excited for WWE to have a taste of the ESPN money. And simply because ESPN is different from Peacock. ESPN is different from Peacock, they're different from Prime, they're different from YouTube TV. There's a lot of different rules and regulations when it comes down to it. ESPN has different rules than Peacock. They might change some of the things because, again, the WWE on a streaming platform like ESPN and Peacock, they have different rules and regulations, right? I can't wait to see what that interface looks like. I can't wait to see how WWE is willing to adapt to the ESPN nature of things. WWE has, and this is a quote from the ESPN chairman. This was Jimmy Patero. He's the ESPN chairman. He says, WWE has an immense, devoted, and passionate fan base that we're excited to super serve on our ESPN DTC platform. Of course, that's direct to streaming. That's what that sort of means. Jimmy Patero continues to say, this agreement, which features most significant WWE events of the year, bolsters our unprecedented content portfolio to help drive our streaming future. This deal also means, and this is my notes, this deal to me also means that WWE's pre and post event shows of all premium live events will be available and streamed on ESPN. Which is very interesting because I did see a rumor that Triple H has said that there possibly won't be a press conference, and that could have been the case of that. I think the press conferences, they were good for the time. I think the press conferences to me is a waste of time. I don't watch the press conference. I do sometimes watch the pre and post show of WWE. Press conference I don't really watch as much anymore. I just think those with the press conference, they're still running off a script, right? There's WWE, they're running off a script, and I don't really prefer the press conferences in WWE. I really do hope they discontinue the press conference. I just think it's a waste of time, in my opinion. Of course, this is Mark Shapiro says here, we are proud to reinforce the E in ESPN as such an exciting juncture in its direct-to-consumer, that's what DTC means, journey. Mark Shapiro, President and Chief Operating Officer of TKO, which owns WWE. Of course, they said in the statement there. He continued on to say, this is Mark Shapiro continues to say, WWE Premium Live events are re-owned for exactly the type of rich storytelling, incredible featuring of athleticism, again, tongue twister there, T, and can't mix culture, tenfold experiences to have becomes synonymous with ESPN. Through our UFC relationship, we have experienced firsthand blown transformational and is ESPN presence can be. This is Mark Shapiro saying, and we know that this would be an exceptional partnership at a time of great innovation for both companies. Of course, WWE, we all know, have launched their own streaming service in 2014. That was the WWE Network that lasted until 2021. WWE was one of really the first people to do it, along with Netflix and all the others. WWE built their own network, and it was very successful for the time. But I'm very, very excited for this. I am so glad that WWE has inked this deal. I think it's going to be very, very dope. Again, like I always have been saying, you want to centralize your sports, right? I am that direct-to-consumer where I want, if it's ESPN, I want to look at WNBA, I want to look at NBA, I want to look at baseball, I want to look at soccer. Now I get to have WWE all in one app. And people are going to pay for that. If you don't have a subscription already, people are going to want to create that subscription model. They're going to want to do it. And I think this is very, very cool. I think it's very awesome. I do wish that all sports was on ESPN, but again, Prime has some money staked in that. TNT has some staked in some sports. Peacock do have some sports coming out. Again, football season is around the corner. I can't wait until football season officially starts, so that way we can dabble more into the football season. But like I say, kudos to WWE. I think this is a huge, huge stepping stone, and I can't wait for 2026 because it's going to look nice, guys. It's going to look real nice for sure.
Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's been a lot of talk of Shador Sanders. Yeah. And obviously I'm in the middle of all of it in terms of you talk about it too much, talk about him too much. I'm a little biased. I've known him since he was a little kid. And one of my favorite people on the planet is his dad. So, and I can't wait to see what happens Friday night when the Browns take on the Carolina Panthers, and obviously tune in to NFL Network for all the latest on all of that, because the network is as hot as it gets once preseason action hits. And that starts Thursday night, but this is a big Friday night. The fact that we hear, like, why wasn't he drafted? How did he drop all those spots? I mean, that was the story of the draft. I've said it before, said it again. I do not recall in all of the 20-plus years I've been doing the draft a story that starts from pick 1 and goes all the way into day 3. Never seen it before, and it happened this time around in Green Bay, and the fact that Shedeur was taken in the 5th round, and part of the reason why the Browns said they took him was a value that they associated with him for being chosen in the 5th round, and that value became, a reality in part because the Browns were one of the many teams that kept passing on him and took another passer in Dylan Gabriel in front of him. And they had already gotten Kenny Pickett in the fold, and Joe Flacco was there, and how is this all going to work? And then you hear, Shedeur's behind. He's 4th on the depth chart. Albert Breer has said multiple times in this program, including just yesterday, that, he was the one that came in the most green. And some of this stuff just doesn't add up. I'm not saying his reporting is off. He's the one who was in Cleveland. He's the one talking to everybody. I mean, obviously, he's got way more knowledge about this thing, boots on the ground, than I would. But, I mean, Pat Shurmur was his OC. It's not like he's not going to get him ready for the pros. And what do you think? Dion was not going to get his son ready for the pros? Like, he's... But, I mean, Our was saying it's stuff like calling the plays and doing the mechanics in the huddle and all that sort of business, which does happen to a lot of first-year quarterbacks as well. But be that as it may, for whatever reason, I mean, Joe Flacco, as we all know, is top of the flow chart. I do believe he's going to be a week 1 starter. He does give them the best chance to win. He is a guy who won comeback player of the year with this coach and this system just 2 years ago and all that business. Kenny Pickett lost some time with an injury, and the same thing with Dylan Gabriel. Whatever the reason, Shedeur Sanders is going to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns on Friday night, and it appears he's going to play most of the game. Kevin Stefanski, on this announcement, making it official, that when it popped free, on the Twitterverse and everything else, what a massive opportunity. Say what you will about preseason. I get it. But if you had told me coming out of the draft, right, that through the OTAs and everything else, Shedeur Sanders was going to start the first preseason game and be the guy. I don't care about these other injuries or anything like that sort of thing. And Snoop Huntley, again, just got there. So, I don't know when you're going to put him in, late 3rd, early 4th, just to throw things out there. If you had told me Shedeur Sanders was going to start and be the guy and not have to look over his shoulder, is Flacco coming in? Is Dylan Gabriel there? Is Kenny Pickett there? What a massive opportunity. Massive. Show everyone you can call the plays. Show everyone you can see the protections. Because there's going to be some grown-ass man out there for the Carolina Panthers in front of their home fans who want to show out too. I don't care about preseason, what your thoughts are about it. This is it. What a massive chance for him. I would have signed for that on the spot if I was a Sanders family for Shedeur or whatever. Certainly with, him speeding a couple times and putting himself at risk of not having this opportunity. Well, this is huge. I couldn't be happier for him. Now, proof's going to come out in the pudding. We're going to see it. And let him show that I can hit my back foot and I can read this and I can do that and I can ball out. And I don't want to hear like, oh, he was going against people who are going to be working in the Home Depot in 3 weeks. Because they're trying to make teams. And Dave Canales is not doing this just to put the Panthers out there to test Shedeur Sanders. He's testing his own people. This is a competition. This is as high of a competition as you can get for, August 8th. Massive. What an opportunity. Doesn't have to look over his shoulder. He's not wondering who's coming in. You got this, kid. You got it. I love it. Well, he doesn't have to wonder because they can't come in. I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they're hurt, and you can't put Joe Flacco out there because what if he suffers a serious loss? You're going to be in pajamas. You're screwed for week 1. He'll be in pajamas. Yeah, as they say. That's Mariucci's phrase for not dressing someone. I can't imagine that Huntley plays at all if he just got there. Yes, I can't imagine it either. Let him go. Let him go. Yeah, let him throw it. And I feel for Dylan. I feel for Dylan Gabriel that he's, yeah, it's that he's hurt. Yeah, and Pickett, where he got hurt, and they decided to be behind. And you consider, well, those are the 3 they don't want to get hurt. So, way to talk about Shador again, Rich. Because this indicates that he's got no chance. They're not going to have 4 quarterbacks on a roster in their final 53, and so they're protecting the 3 that they really like right now, and they're using Shador as cannon fodder. I don't believe it. And if I'm Shador Sanders and I'm the rest of everybody in his circle, I'm thinking, this is it. This is what you wanted. But even if what you said is true, he can at least go out there and show that it's not. And he deserves to be ahead of the other. Hell yeah. So, and he could actually zoom in front of him. Let's go. Be accurate. Be smart. Your best ability is available. These are unavailable. I love it. I couldn't be happier about this development. Even though, obviously, that it's not great for the other ones who are in. I'm sure Pickett wants to get out there. I'm sure Gabriel wants to get out there. And I'm sure Flacco's leaving itching about it. This is what Joe had to say about this. Myles Garrett was asked about it, too. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the way if I was Myles Garrett, this is the way I would show up to the podium. Every single time. Shirtless. And then he crosses his arms. Just a What was he talking about? I have no idea.
Inside the batting cages at the Boston Red Sox's spring training complex, where the future of hitting is playing out in real time, the best trio of position prospects in a generation blossomed. Christian Campbell, Roman Anthony, and Marcelo Mayer have spent hundreds of hours in the building, rotating around its 10 tunnels, though their best work always seems to happen in Cage 4, right inside the main entrance. When they walk through the door, underneath a sign with a Ted Williams quote in big, capital letters, we're going to learn how to do 2 things. We're going to hit it hard, and we're going to hit it in the air. They enter a hitting laboratory. Every cage is equipped with a hit tracks that gives them real-time batted ball data. Trash cans house an array of training bats, overweight and underweight, long and short, skinny. A traject robot capable of replicating every pitch thrown in the major leagues over the past half-decade is joined by a dozen other standard pitching machines. Exit velocity leaderboards up the walls. Here, Campbell, Anthony, and Mayer are in the middle of everything, appropriate for what their future holds. They're learning modern hitting philosophy, applying it in an array of competitions that aim to turn their tools into skills, jamming to bachata and reggaeton and rap and rock, talking immense amounts of trash. On a small desk inside Cage sit 2 binders outlining the Red Sox's hitting philosophy, one in English and one in Spanish. These binders outline what the organization's hitting coaches refer to as its core 4 tenets: swing decisions, bat speed, bat-to-ball skill, and ball flight. As pitchers have leveraged baseball's sabermetric revolution into designer offerings and a sport-wide velocity jump, hitting has fallen behind. Batting average and weighted on-base average, a metric that measures productivity at the plate, are at low points over the past half-century. Pitchers regularly flummox hitters. The Red Sox believe they can bridge the gap, and the new Big 3, a nickname that was originally given to Mayer, Anthony, and K.L.P, the catching prospect at the heart of the trade that brought ace Garrett Crochet to Boston over the winter, are the philosophy's beta test. The training environment is the biggest thing with us, said Anthony, a 20-year-old outfielder. We push each other so much, and it's always that competitive, friendly, but competitive environment we set in the cage. We talk crap to each other. We really try to get the best out of each other and really beat each other in training. And I think it makes us better when we take the field. Their results are undeniable. Mayer, 22, is a smooth-fielding, left-handed hitting shortstop who fell to the Red Sox with the No. 4 pick in the 2021 draft, weathered injuries, and saw his exit velocity spike and strikeout rate dip last year. Anthony, who signed for a well-over-slot $2.5 million bonus after Boston chose him with the 79th pick in the 2022 draft, is widely regarded as the best hitting prospect in the minor leagues. The 22-year-old Campbell, a fourth-round pick in 2023 as a draft-eligible redshirt freshman, was a revelation last season, the consensus minor league player of the year, who went from unheralded to a prospect coveted even more than Anthony by some teams despite an unorthodox swing. All three will be in the major leagues sooner than later. For Campbell, perhaps by opening day. They'll bring with them a shared experience they believe will transfer to the big leagues. When they eventually face Yankees ace Garrett Cole, they'll have a sense of what to expect, not just because they stood in against him on the trajectory, but because coaches took his best fastballs, 100 miles per hour at the top of the zone, added an extra half foot of rise to them, and challenged the kids to hit it. You want to be surrounded with the best, Anthony said, because it makes you want to become the best. In September 2023, after the minor league season ended, the Red Sox gathered their minor league prospects at their spring training complex for a 2-month off-season camp. Boston staff assesses every hitter to form an action plan, and Campbell's was clear. He made excellent swing decisions and had elite bat-to-ball ability, both of which manifested themselves as he hit .376 with 29 walks and 17 strikeouts over 217 plate appearances in his lone season at Georgia Tech. While the 6'3", 210-pound Campbell swung the bat hard, the Red Sox saw room for improvement. Ball flight represented the biggest area of need after his average launch angle during 22 post-draft pro games was just 2 degrees. Inside the complex's cafeteria one day in camp, Campbell was surveying his options when Red Sox hitting coordinator John Soteropoulos meandered by. Soteropoulos had joined the team after 3 years as a hitting coach at Driveline Baseball, the Seattle-based think tank where philosophies have pervaded the game over the past decade. Soteropoulos noticed shepherd's pie on the cafeteria's menu and alerted Campbell. "You need to eat that," Soteropoulos said. "It's got bat speed in it." "I hope it has ball flight too," Campbell said. While Mayer entered the MLB ecosystem as a top prospect and Anthony a tooled-up could-be star, Campbell was different. Taken with the compensatory pick the Red Sox received when longtime shortstop Xander Bogaerts signed with the San Diego Padres, Campbell signed for less than $500,000. His swing was janky. He needed work. Soteropoulos, director of hitting, and fellow Driveline alum Jason Okard, and assistant farm director Chris Stasio were empowered by Red Sox management to implement their new systems in hopes of extracting the best version of later-round picks like Campbell. And if it worked, he would represent the proof of concept. From the moment he arrived in the organization, Campbell impressed the staff with his desire to learn and challenging players beyond the perfunctory repetitions hitters take. The same soft flips in the batting cage, the same 60 miles per hour batting practice before every game, is at the heart of Boston's philosophy. Professional baseball players, the thinking goes, are elite problem solvers. Giving them complex problems drives them to adapt. If they train in environments that don't take them outside of their comfort zone, improvement is negligible. Challenging hitters, whether with the trajectory or with machine balls that fly only when struck on the sweet spot, or with slim bats that emphasize barrel control or hundreds of other ways, forces that adaptation. And it's those changes that take a non-existent or atrophied skill and give it heft. I really wanted to go to a team that could develop me into a great player, and that will take the time to help me because I feel like I'm really coachable and I listen, Campbell said. I just need the right information. And if I don't know what I'm doing, it's hard for me to correct and change things. Over those 2 months, the Red Sox didn't overhaul Campbell's swing as much as they found the best version of it. 30 years ago, K.L.P. Duran, a professor at the University of Hawaii, ran a study on overload and underload training that showed it significantly improved bat speed. The industry has mostly ignored its findings, but Driveline embraced them and brought them to the Red Sox. Campbell trained 2 days a week with bats that were 20% heavier and 20% lighter than standard 31-ounce bats. Though he whipped his bat through the zone with a preternatural ability to stay on plane, the angle of the bat meeting the angle at which the pitch arrived at home plate, delivering the barrel with greater force reinforced a tenet Red Sox coaches preach repeatedly. The bats do the work for you. The bigger challenge was adulterating Campbell's swing to hit the ball in the air. Williams, who wanted to be known as the greatest hitter who ever lived, long advocated for ball flight because he understood a hard-hit ground ball is typically a single, while balls struck in the air produce the vast majority of extra base hits. Pulling the ball in the air is particularly important. The longer a bat takes to make contact, the more speed it generates. Meeting a ball in front, which typically allows a hitter to pull, maximizes the capacity for damage. Rather than overhaul Campbell's swing, the Red Sox preferred to let his natural athleticism guide him toward a solution. Instead of moving his hand position or getting rid of his toe tap, Campbell altered where he wanted to strike the ball, reminding himself, with every rep, to do something counterintuitive, swing under it. For me, it's just a feeling, Campbell said. You gotta know where your barrel is at all times. It was in an odd spot because I was trying to get more elevation on the ball than normal. So I feel like I have to swing under the ball to hit it in the air. And I really was on plane because I've been so on top of it all these years. Campbell's barrel aptitude improved by taking reps with a fungo bat or a slim 37-inch bat, 3 to 4 inches longer than the standard bat, which forced him to meet the ball farther in front of the plate. The skills learned in doing so eventually meld with the hitter's regular bats and variations of drills, offsetting standard pitching machines to the side. Mixed pitch traject sessions allow them to be applied in new, challenging environments. In the cages in Fort Myers, coaches pitted Campbell and his fellow prospects against one another to see who could hit the ball hardest or most consistently. Winners gloated. Marcelo talks 25-8, Anthony said. And those who didn't win returned the next day intent on revenge. When last winter's off-season sessions ended, the Red Sox were hopeful they would translate into a breakout season for Campbell. Even they could not have predicted what transpired over the ensuing months. Campbell said he came into 2024 hoping to hit 5 home runs, one more than in his lone college season. He started the season at High A Greenville and hit his 5th home run May 9th. Less than a month later, with 3 more home runs on the ledger, he ascended to Double A, where he spent 2 months and whacked 8 more homers. He was promoted to Triple A for the final month and added another 4, finishing the season hitting .330/.439/.558 with 20 home runs, 24 stolen bases, 74 walks, and 103 strikeouts in 517 plate appearances. I remember the first time I saw him hit, I was like, "The hell is this?" Mayer said, "He's in the cage with the weirdest swing I've ever seen, and he's got his long bat, and I'm like, what?" Next thing I know, he's hitting .380. When Red Sox shortstop Trevor Story first saw Campbell on a rehabilitation assignment in AAA, he was taken by his ability to self-organize and learn how to solve problems. He has a special talent for moving the bat, Story said. His bat speed is just violet. When you hear it, you're like, OS. It's controlled violence, Campbell said. You got to make sure you see the ball. And then whenever you make a decision to swing, you got to put your fastest, hardest, best swing on it and make sure you stay somewhat under control while that ball is going on so you can hit the ball as well as possible. Every swing really can't be the same. The way pitches move and how good everybody is nowadays, if you take the same swing every time and only can hit certain pitches, that's a mistake. You've got to be able to adjust to different things, different pitches, different locations. During the first week of this year's spring training, before the full Boston squad reported, Red Sox Hall of Famer Dwight Evans stood outside of Cage 4 and admired what he was seeing. Evans spent 2 seasons as a hitting coach, in 1994 with Colorado and 2002 with the Red Sox, and he recognizes baseball's evolution. The game changes, and even if all the technology isn't his cup of tea, he isn't going to argue with the results. In Campbell, Mayer, and Anthony, he doesn't see prospects. Without an at-bat to their names in MLB, they remind Evans, who spent 20 seasons in the major leagues, 19 with Boston, of his peers. It's almost like they've been around 10 years in the big leagues, Evans said. They just have it. They know what they're trying to do. The Red Sox believe this is just the beginning for Campbell, Mayer, and Anthony, and that their approach to hitting will create a pipeline of prospects to join a core that includes the trio alongside All-Stars Rafael Devers, Jaron Duran, Alex Bregman and Story, and the young and talented Tristan Casas and Sedan Rafaela. Buy-in at all levels is paramount, and Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow, Assistant General Manager Paul Taboni, and Farm Director Brian Abraham are leaning into the work done by Okart, Soteropoulos, and Stasio. Breslow hired K.L.P, who founded Driveline, as a special advisor. 5 other former Driveline employees did the player development, baseball science, and major league staffs, and Stasio was promoted over the winter to Director of Major League Development, a new role in which he will apply the development philosophies to the big league club and maintain the continuity for prospects who ascend to Fenway Park. Campbell is in line to be the first, of many, the Red Sox hope, to crack the big league roster. He's in competition for the second base job this spring, a testament to the organization's belief in him. If he wins it, Bregman will play third and Devers, who has received MVP votes 5 of the past 6 years and signed a franchise record $313.5 million contract, will move to designated hitter, a role he said unequivocally he doesn't want to play. The Red Sox see Campbell as worth the potential drama. Perhaps it's a function of 5 playoff-free seasons in 6 years since their 2018 World Series title, but it's likely simpler. Campbell is too good to keep down. Mayer and Anthony won't be far behind. The competition fostered in Cage 4, and the work ethic it demands, isn't going anywhere. Even before Campbell's arrival, Mayer and Anthony had grown close through late-night, post-game hitting sessions. Both have beautiful left-handed swings, more traditional than Campbell's, in which he waggles the bat, pointing it almost directly toward the sky at the swing's launch point. Starting from a better place, then Campbell hasn't kept either from reaping the benefits of Boston's program. I don't know if I'm hitting the ball harder because it's necessarily bat speed or because I'm working in the gym, but both together could only help, Mayer said. So over the years, I feel like I'm hitting it harder. I'm moving the bat quicker. I have a better understanding of my swing. So all those things tie in and play a big role and lead to success. Knowing which prospects will find major league success is impossible, though in an era defined by objective data, the misses aren't nearly as frequent. There was no bat speed data when Eric Hosmer, Mike Moustakas, and Will Myers were all top 10 prospects for Kansas City in 2010. Traject was a dream machine when Arizona had Justin Upton, Chris Young, and Carlos Gonzalez in 2007. Exit velocity was the domain of rocket ships in 2004 when Ricky Weeks, Prince Fielder, and J.J. Hardy were coming through the Milwaukee system. It's a whole new baseball world, and it is on full display in Cage 4, where Campbell, Mayer, and Anthony have spent so much time working with their instructors that they joke that Soteropoulos might as well sleep there. It's pretty cool to think about how many spring trainings we've been in there, Anthony said. Looking back at it and being on the big league side, just appreciating guys like John and guys on the minor league side that take so much time out of their days to get us better. For all the struggles hitters around baseball have faced, the Red Sox believe in their system, and in this first generation that will serve as a litmus test to its efficacy. I'm committed to the game, Campbell said. I want to be the best player I can be every day. I want to bring whatever I can to Boston. Once I knew they drafted me, I was like, that's the team I'm going to debut with. That's the team I'm going to play with. I want to play with the team for a long time. I just knew that I'm going to give all I have to this team that took a chance on me. I'm going to make sure it's worth it for them and me.
We had a similar discussion about Aaron Rodgers. No, I take the best of Mahomes over the best of Aaron Rodgers. The criticism of Aaron Rodgers being risk aversion. Aaron Rodgers is that he seems primarily concerned with not making mistakes, but can still make high-end plays. But there's a long stretch of his career where he wasn't winning no games down by 10 points or more because of the level of risk aversion, right? It's an irony because it's a similar criticism of the guy who was taken #1 overall the same year that Aaron Rodgers went 24 or 25, which is Alex Smith. I'm just going to not make a mistake. That's what I'm going to do. Mahomes, 3 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, and that is in, as a starter, 18, 19, 20, 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. Been to 2 more. Never lost, well, hold on, has only played, what is it, 2 road playoff games in this whole time? Played 2. Has only lost 2 playoff games prior to the Super Bowl, both in the AFC title game, both in the AFC title game, has lost in the Super Bowl, but I still contend, and I don't care what anybody says, and this is not what them kids try to call it glazing. That game against Tampa Bay is the wildest. That's the first 1-on-11 NFL game that I have ever seen. And it had some of the most incredible individual plays ever, 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 ever. We have already seen Mahomes at that place where you put up the giant numbers, the Dan Marino 1984 type numbers. We have also seen him be at the place where it's just like, oh, I just got to do what it takes to get it done. Just keep moving these chains. Okay, cool. We're going to do that. We've seen him do it. I think we feel like we've seen him do it with great offensive talent. We've seen him do it without great offensive talent. We have not seen him do it with a team that was great on offense and great on defense. For example, we lose sight of how good the 49ers with Joe Montana were on defense. We have seen some Patriots teams. The Patriots teams are kind of like that too. Great on offense, maybe great on defense. At the same times, not quite so much, but you still felt like, yeah, Bill Belichick over there, right? We don't know where this story is going to end with Mahomes, but they just came off a really disappointing 15-win season. Think about what I just said here. They came off a really disappointing 15-win season, and they got better in the offseason. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a point at which Rashee Rice has got to sit for a stretch or whatever, but the idea that Mahomes catches Tom Brady and Super Bowl wins is not off the table. It is also fair to say it's a somewhat crazy thought. Like the thing to remember by and large, with Tom Brady maybe being the exception, very rarely has anybody won their last Super Bowl, their last NBA championship, their last major, and people assume that that was the last one. That's not really how it works, right? One day you just look back and you're like, damn, that was the last one. Because why would you think it? They just won it now. Why couldn't they win it again or whatever? 7 would be a lot for him to get to. But we don't have the why not answer. Yeah, he's there. Now, it becomes a matter of how well the Chiefs can keep this up and whether they're going to make the decision to operate on the premise of, we got Patrick Mahomes, let's fortify the defense and let's just ask him to get the rest done. I think maybe the most underrated part of this is he is doing this in a golden age of young quarterbacking. Okay? They're all in this conference and they're all basically the same age. Not exactly the same age, but his first year as a starter is the same as Josh Allen. It's the same as Lamar Jackson. If you want to extend it just a little bit farther, it's the same year as Baker Mayfield. He was in the same draft with, he's not good anymore, but Deshaun Watson, nasty ass, is pretty good there for a little stretch. Like, this isn't a downtime. Joe Burrow comes in as a starter 2 years after he did. These aren't slow times, right? He's not the one guy while this is going down. No, 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 no. He's that dude. And I've seen someone make a point. I can't remember who it was on Twitter, but it was very interesting. But if you look back at the 1980s and the late 70s, the AFC had the quarterbacks. But then in the 80s, you saw the NFC became dominant because the way they got things done was running the ball with defense. That was how it went. You see something very similar now happening with the NFC also. You think about the Eagles, my Detroit Lions, America's team, for example. They running the ball. Like, that's how they're getting it done, while the other conference has those quarterbacks. Those quarterbacks cost a little bit more money, can fortify more on the other side of the ball, and then you see who wins in the Super Bowl when it comes down to it. But Mahomes is dictating a world in which, in the AFC, you got to have a quarterback. You don't feel like you can consider going up there and dealing with those guys if you don't have the quarterback. That's right. And nobody wants to feel that way. He is, like, I'm trying to think of who the analog, I have been comparing him to Michael Jordan for a very long time, right? But he's a Jordan analog in the sense that you could feel like you got everything going for you till you got to go over there and you see him, right? Like, And the teams that have beaten the Chiefs in the Super Bowl with Mahomes as their quarterback were, again, that Tampa team where I say it again. They put that what they call it around a slate. They put that slate up on the TV and it had Mike Remmers at left tackle, and I was like, ooh, I have judged incorrectly on who's going to win this game. And then the Eagles, who just were so much better at every position, right? So it's not a situation where we got Mahomes, nothing else matters. But picking against him still does not at all. No, I've picked against Tom Brady many times. I ain't never felt like I thought that picking against this guy was going to be a good idea. Now, part of that is because I watch a lot of football with Nick, and I don't necessarily want to go home after I've already, walked 20 blocks to get there. You know what I'm saying? But he's that guy. He's that one, and we saw it very, very, very early. He is the rare example of these quarterbacks where you see it early, and there really hasn't been the drop-off. There kinda has, right? Like the last couple of years, he's not putting up the video game numbers in the ways that his peers have, right? And quarterback play kind of goes up and down like that, where you can be better even though your statistics aren't as good. Josh Allen, I believe it was 2020 or 2021, one of those years where he had the super lights out stats. It's never going to be like that again. He is clearly much better than he was at that point. Like, that's why using stats for your quarterback comparisons get tricky while you have to actually watch. It's because of all those things. But this guy has walked in and basically been the king since the second he showed up. And even when people pass him in stats, even when he loses a Super Bowl, he is still the king, and it's still the beginning.
So more on for the Bro Code Podcast. We hope that you guys enjoyed the show this far. Bro Code Podcast presented by iHeartMedia and K.L.P. Entertainment. Now, we got to talk a little bit about the developing story for the WNBA. Again, the season's still kicking off really, really strong. We knew going into this WNBA season that the league's collective bargaining, negotiation with players would be one of the most important issues within this year of 2025. Now, with no deal placed to hand of the current objective bargaining agreement expiring on October 31st, it has become the most signal important topic within WNBA fans. Again, I'm very excited for, the season has been growing up really, really well when it comes down to the WNBA, and things is only going to get even better, Jackson. Now, during the WNBA All-Star Weekend game that was this mid-July, time is moving fast. I always say on the other show that July moved like it had somewhere to be because we're now in August. The players that put the focus squarely on the CBA, of course, players described a meeting with the commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, and the ownership representation of Indianapolis has been a missed opportunity. That was what most people have been saying, to come closer to terms with everything within the WNBA when it comes down to it. Now, sources has been saying before the July 19th All-Star game that we saw recently, players wore "Pay Us What You Owe Us" t-shirts during the warm-ups. Last episode I talked about it. A few episodes back I talked about it. I'm always going to be a fan of the WNBA. I am on that spectrum, on that topic of conversation, that I do think WNBA players need to be paid what they owed. Honestly, I really do. They give us one hell of a show, right? One hell of a show for the ladies on all the teams, the WNBA team. So I'm always going to be a cheerleader for the WNBA because I do want them to get paid what they're on. Again, fans chanted in support of the players after the game, but the move got some criticism too, right? This is what the developing story has been going. Even the retired WNBA player, Candace Parker, hey, Miss Parker, said during her post-moves podcast, you guys go listen to it, it's a great podcast, with the Indiana Fever's Aaliyah Boston, that it wasn't a great look for the players to wear those shirts. This is just speculations. This is what the topic of conversation on Candace Parker's latest podcast show, Post Moves Podcast. Again, go take a listen. It's a great show. They wear the shirts, and they're giving little to no effort during the game. Now, Alita Boston countered by saying this. This is what she said, that with so many games on the schedule and short recovery times, the players did not need to play hard in this exhibit because they are giving so much in the games that matter. I agree, kind of. I honestly do think the All-Star game, there's no shitting on the All-Star game. No shitting on him. But an All-Star game, to me, is just ad dollars. I get it. With the All-Star game, you want to get together the top players who are dope at what they're doing in either defensing, guard, point guard, shooter, three-point shooter. You want to put together a team of that stature to get them to get rolling within the All-Star game. Sure. But when I hear an All-Star game too, as a business person, I hear cha-ching, right? There's ad dollars, there's sponsorships, car manufacturers have their name on it, maybe a new movie that's getting ready to come out, they're going to slap their name on it. I understand the ad dollars behind the All-Star games for both WNBA and the NBA, right? Ad dollars. I get it. So when Aaliyah Boston says that, they want to spend time on games that matter, I get where she says that, because when it comes down to the season games, right, that's what truly matters in this equation. I agree. It matters, right? It matters to have the ladies in their season game, because every lady that's playing on the WNBA teams, they want that championship. So I get why she says that. I really do. Meanwhile, Engelberg, commissioner of the WNBA, has stayed on message with a positive platitude guiding a management ownership response, or lack thereof, right? That isn't forced on public perception, of course. There's been the question that ESPN fans say, this is the question that everybody's been asking, will the slides move closer over the next few months? Now, ESPN, of course, looks at what we learned from the point of the CBA negotiations and what could come from that as well. Now, another question that a lot of people have been asking, a lot of sports fans, a lot of WNBA fans have been asking this question: what are the players' biggest priorities, right? There are, in my opinion, there are several, and the most important part of it is revenue sharing, right? How it's determined by whether the percentile will be allowed to grow during the course of the CBA agreements and not to be a fixed number for the duration of the deal. We're still looking at it. Now, there was a conversation that the WNBA Players Association president, Nakia Owokmaki, give me a thumbs up if I said that name right. She told ESPN, this is what she said. This is a quote for her. This is the Players Association president of WNBA. The players are still admitted that we get a percentage of revenue that grows with the business, which perhaps includes team revenue. And that's just a part of the conversation, right? This is the WNBA Players Association president has said, fans that I've seen and that I've heard, because there's a lot of fans that have talk shows as well, fans are used to a salary cap for the NBA and the NFL teams. Those are being set based on the percentage of what the CPA described, this is a description of basketball-related income, or BRI. By contrast, though, ladies and gentlemen, the WNBA's current CBA is defined by the cap of which team seasons ahead of time, the modest 3% annual raises. Again, a merchandising, butchering these words here in my script. In the CBA, that would increase the cap based on revenue effectively invalidated by the time of the deal. Now, because of the CBA because of the current CBA began in 2020 prior to COVID-19 pandemic, revenue targets are set based on the previous campaign, which was 2019's campaign, which made a lump sum over the life of the deal, right? The league made no money of ticket sales during the abbreviated 2020 season, which makes sense. COVID season, it screwed everybody up. Played on the IMG Academy campus on Bradenton, Florida, and attendance was also limited in 2021 by local restrictions. Again, COVID-19 has happened. That made it unrealistic for the targets to be met despite the league's increased attendance over the past 2 seasons. I got to say, this is just my opinion. You know, I get the 2019, 2020, 2021 seasons because the COVID screwed a lot of things up. I do think it's time. I do think it's time to have that increase because this 2025. COVID was 5 years ago, right? And it means COVID's still kind of kicking it around the world right now, but that was, 5 years ago. Now, of course, the WNBA Players Association president, again, goes off with the WNBA's latest offer to its player, while dramatically increasing the salary cap and maximize base salaries, which a league source suggested could quadruple to at least $1 million for the current $249,244. Again, follows the same model as the current CBA. Again, the Players Association president of WNBA goes on and continues to say it's basically the same system that we exist in right now. She could continue on to tell ESPN they're postponing a system, proposing a system that includes revenue that will grow with the business. When you approach it from the perspective of their response to other proposals, yes, money is more, but ultimately, this is her saying this quote, if you look at the growth of the business, the money relative to the percentage of everything is virtually staying the same. I really, really do hope that we see an increase for the WNBA. I will continue to fight along with Terry and Jackson and our audience. It's time to pay the ladies what they owe. These ladies, they go through it. They go through some hard times. They go through therapy. They go through hurt. They go through all of these things that makes it so important for these ladies to perform the very best. You got some of the ladies who decides to go pro and has been drafted. They quit college. They don't think about college because they're thinking about going pro and giving us the very best we can. And it's just one of those things that I'm always going to be an avid fighter for. And it's time to pay the ladies what they deserve. In each episode of the Bro Code Podcast, I'm going to talk about it. Every episode of the Bro Code Podcast, I'm going to be their cheerleader when it comes down to the ladies' plan. But we'll stay tuned with the latest in WNBA news here, ladies and gentlemen. We hope that you guys enjoyed the Bro Code Podcast presented by iHeartRadio, of course, with T giving his news and sports, Jackson also giving their news and sports, and of course our correspondents that are part of the show. Thank you guys so very much. Football season is officially here. I've watched listened to the latest new episode of the Pat McAfee Show. He was there at Kenton, Ohio for the Hall of Fame football kickoff. I can't wait for football season, guys. It's going to be very, 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 very cool to talk about it here on the Bro Code Podcast. Again, I'm rooting for some of the teams, right? I'm rooting for the Falcons. We're here in Atlanta. I know, I get it. It's the Falcons, but I root for the Falcons. I'm rooting for the Jets. I'm not rooting for the Giants no more. They used to be my team. I'm just not a Giants fan anymore. They just suck. They don't do it for me. They just don't do it for me. And I'm looking forward to more NFL teams to get started with their season. So I can't wait to see what happens with football season. So it's around the corner, and we'll be talking about it very soon here on the Bro Code Podcast. Again, that's going to wrap it up here on today's show. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching the video version of this Bro Code Podcast, thank you so very much, by the way. If you're watching it on any video platform you get your videos from, thank you. And if you're listening to any audio platform you get your podcast from, we thank you guys for that as well as we continue this awesome train of our sports show that we got for K.L.P. Entertainment. We love you guys. We thank you guys. We'll catch y'all on the next program of the Bro Code Podcast presented by iHeartMedia. Until then, so long, stay safe, have a great night, and we'll catch y'all in the next Bro Code Podcast episode. Until then, peace.
Welcome to the Bro Code Podcast. Podcast. Join Kennedy Lucas, Terry Lester, and Jackson Smith as they break down the biggest plays, share locker room banter, and keep it 100 on sports hot takes. Gear up, cause this is where the real talk begins. Gear up! Cause this is where the real talk begins. Gear up. Cause this is where the real talk begins. Gear up.